subscribe and leave a comment below.
r/AskReddit. What was the please stop school presentation that you witnessed? I was in 4th grade and a girl in my class did an oral report on Martin Luther King and how he was a hero for freeing the slaves. Shrug. Psychology class. Our final was to research and do a presentation on a mental illness. One group chose necrophilia. Started with the first slide saying let's crack open a cold one. Edit. Thank you for the silver and the gold. D. This was my presentation, and it was about the science behind how Mountain Dew can dissolve a mouse. This was in 4th grade. Needless to say, I got some parent complaints. Every year someone did the Coke and Bones experiment at my school. Every year it won an award. In college, someone was doing a presentation on Nelson Mandela and kept referring to Africans as African Americans. Not a presentation, but during our school assemblies we often had student performers, which were usually musically inclined individuals or theater kids doing a scene monologue. One kid decided to do a stand-up comedy routine about a girl giving him a blowjob. So awkward, and the principal had to interrupt him. The one where my school got ripped off by paying a guy who claimed to be on SpongeBob to come talk to us about drugs. He did look kind of like Tom Kenny, I guess. I was also thinking backward about the question. I thought OP meant when did the school have to tell everyone to quit doing something. For me it was banning Pokemon cards in 1998 because toddlers were brawling over that first edition Charizard. In Speech 101 in college we had to pick a children's book and voice act each character. That was it. That was the entire assignment. Well, one student decided to take it to the next level. He chose a Berenstain Bear book and decided to not only do voice acting for every single one of the characters, but also act it out. It was physically uncomfortable to watch this guy scramble around the room and pretend to be bears and other animals. It was not well done. It was awful. In 1984, when I was in 6th grade, each class did the winter concert. The 8th grade football team sang I'm Dreaming of a Black Christmas in blackface. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Bayview Middle School. Edit. It was 1984, not 1985. 1985. Green Bay Middle School. Sounds about right. When I was in high school, a girl from an absurdly wealthy family gave a presentation on why the rich are just as oppressed as anyone. This was in a normal public school in Kentucky where about 90% of the students were middle class at best. You could feel the eyes rolling in that room. For 8th grade talent show, 2 girls sang the Mr. Bledel song. Mr. Bledel was a good-looking, recently college graduated teacher that basically was about how cute they thought he was. Even then, it was incredibly uncomfortable, and I remember looking at the teacher's face and he didn't seem very amused. God, I would hate to be that teacher. In history class, we all had to do a presentation about some sort of injustice in the world. One kid chose a prison camp for his topic. All his PowerPoint slides were photos of men being stripped, chained, whipped, sodomized, and forced to give blowjobs. We were 13. Edit. Yes, his project was about Abu Ghraib. How far did the teacher let him go before he was stopped? The second slide. Teacher interrupted to ask how many explicit pictures there were. The student showed the thumbnails of the slides and it was something like 40 slides long. It's me. I did this. I cringe about it to this day. Nearly 20 years later. I was 16 and in high school. My high school was going to do a spring talent show. I wanted to be in the talent show and show off my talents. The problem was, my actual talents are not ones that I could show off at a talent show. So I decided to try singing. I have never sung in my life. I have never had voice lessons. I was in my prime weep stage and chose an anime song to sing. I didn't know any actual Japanese. I had just memorized the lyrics from hearing the song so many times. Luckily I didn't make it past auditions. But several people saw an overweight girl in a Sailor Moon shirt try to sing Butterfly despite having never done any singing or voice training ever in her life. Nearly 20 years later, and remembering it keeps me awake at night. I've told this on Reddit a few times, but it's truly unforgettable. Smart kid in the class was giving a deeply sourced PowerPoint presentation on religion in Europe. He opens up his files. Proceeds to click on his project named Enga. He says clearly I wasn't really paying any attention when I named my file. He gives a presentation. He stutters and sweats bullets while we watch in utter disbelief. The word is sitting there on the top of the file heading the whole time. This was during a study abroad semester while attending a cultural communication class. He had to rot in his own shit after that. Someone in my class did a book report on the dictionary. The teacher was pissed. All of us students thought it was hilarious. Never heard the end of the presentation. Edit. Thank you so much for the gold. I've never had it before. What a treat. It was my sophomore year English class. This kid who was reading his essay in front of the class and started to stumble over some of the words. The teacher recognized the words and found the essay the kid plagiarized and started helping him read it. The kid didn't understand what was happening and just thanked the teacher and kept reading. Edit. Holy crap. Gold. Thank you. I don't have time to reply to everyone, but here's a few more details for clarity. This was in like 2004. The teacher found the essay on the internet. He gave the kid a day to try again. The kid was stumbling over the words because they were big ones he'd evidently never seen before. Everything else is fuzzy since it was over 15 years ago. Cheers. Thanks for the upvotes. We were supposed to have Arnold Schwarzenegger come to our school sometime around 1999 or 2000. Principal was hyping it up for weeks. Then about 4 days before his arrival it was announced on Friday that he wasn't coming. Fast forward to Monday, during morning announcements it's announced he's changed his mind and is coming to our school tomorrow as planned. Come Tuesday morning everyone is excited. We're all amped to meet the Terminator. A handful of parents even came with VHS copies of his movies. Posters. Act. We're all going to our gym auditorium. Taking our seats. Principal takes the stage, takes the moment to make some announcements. Award honor roll. Perfect attendance. Act. Finally she starts hyping up around Schwarzenegger. Everyone is excited and on edge. When she basically says here's Arnie and it's the vice principal in a leather jacket holding a shotgun. Not a toy one either, and spends 30-40 minutes trying to hype us up for FCAT, all the while doing the absolute worst impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger I've ever heard. Once we realized Arnold wasn't there, people start shouting, screaming at the principals for lying to us, along with some of the parents who came to this. I do hope someone has footage of this meltdown of a bunch of K5 kids shouting and screaming at the principals because Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't come to our school. Because I clearly remember 2-3 people having camcorders. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Honestly thought this would get buried. And can anyone explain the Office reference? I genuinely hate the show, so I'm not sure why people kept bringing it up. As for some of the questions, Arnold was scheduled but cancelled last minute on not only my school but my cousin's who he was supposed to go to on Wednesday. Instead he only went to one school in my city, which I don't remember which one ATM. But I'll add it if I remember it. Yes, the principals apologized the next day, and the vice principal changed schools the following school year. I have absolutely no idea why he thought bringing a shotgun was a good idea, but I think he was attempting to look the part, which considering his massive gut, really didn't help. Not at school, but when I was in high school my church youth group went to this church camp. For those uninitiated, Thursday nights are normally the really emotional nights. Well, this camp was different. Thursday night the guy that started the camp comes on stage and begins giving a bunch of middle school and high school boys and girls the sex talk. All I remember from that night was the quote, "Just because there's a hole there doesn't mean you have to stick something in it. But then the boat will sink." When I was a 9th grade student, we had to present the poems we made in English class. Most people wrote about embracing their culture, loving their friends, etc. And then there was that one kid who recited a lifestyle poem which compared fat people to beached whales and said that people who don't work out will die before they're 20. My sophomore year we had to make a presentation about any person that made an impact on the world that was inspirational. Someone chose Hitler. A kid did something similar at my middle school. We had to make posters about someone who inspired us and he picked Hitler. His justification was all the stuff he invented. Later got removed from the school and we had an assembly while he was gone where they explained he had autism. Compared to some other stories in here, this is minor, but it was a group project for one of my literature classes. There were 5 people in this group. According to the rubric for this assignment, everyone was supposed to have equal speaking parts. One of the members in this group would just not stop talking. Half of their presentation was just her talking, and she went on about each of her slides for like 5 minutes. The rest of her group members had like 1 or 2 slides each, and she had, if I recall correctly, 5 or 6. She would also interject into the other group members' parts to add her opinions. The look on my professor's face screamed, just shut up already, every time she talked. An anti-bullying campaign. They spent most of the presentation explaining different types and ways to harass people. Bullying increased in school and everything got 10 times worse now that the students were more educated on the subject. So, basically it was a class of what not to do. Those never end well. They sincerely meant to try and get people to become aware and stop it when they see it, but we never had heard of some of the tactics they described. This was a Spanish class in college, and I think the assignment was something like talk about your best friend or some such. Just kind of a softball assignment so you could practice using the vocabulary, and one classmate's friend was evidently a friend with benefits. Was there anyone there with no friends? The lonely kids had best friends who were in Canada. Not a literal presentation really, but we had an assembly in high school where the students that helped plan homecoming would announce the nominations for homecoming court. It always had a cute little theme and like a short skit involved. Well, at one point the audio they were using as the cue for the skit failed. They just kind of paused for technical difficulties. But this one girl from the planning committee started singing a random Disney song a cappella while improvising a dance to go along with it. I guess as a distraction from them trying to fix the audio, she kept trying to get people to join in with her, but nobody did, and she eventually just kind of trailed off mid-song and started pouting that nobody would sing with her. Then once they got the audio fixed for the skit, she pouted and snapped the way through the rest of her lines, which made everything even more uncomfortable. The other famous one was when a girl in our class running for student government referenced a hashtag that she was trying to make popular during her campaign speech to the whole school. The hashtag was something catchy about her having a big ass. There was a genuine collective yikes from the crowd when she said it. I don't think she got elected. This was in Ducking College. Our bio finals were to present on any topic that was related to biology. A group was presenting on types of protection for sex. Not once did they refer to any body parts or fluids by their scientific names. So, yes, they literally had dong, cum, and kitten on slides and read off them. Everyone kept glancing over at our professor, who had this look like he was just constantly cleaning his glasses because he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. They got Kentucky ducked on grading. I googled Kentucky ducked, but it just delivered porn results. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comment.